When preparations by neighbors for Sunday morning church was interrupted by agonizing screams for help from one of their own, they did not anticipate that a life and death situation was happening in their midst. Even though they vehemently tried to save the man's life, it would shock not only them, but the whole nation. The story of a beauty pageant queen who had murdered her boyfriend would go viral on social media as she awaited her verdict on the case, and the jaw-dropping sentence by the judge for the crime would be highly debated. Habari, and welcome to another story, 54. This story takes us through a roller coaster of jealousy and murder, and how domestic violence needs to be confronted and prevented, and the victims helped appropriately. On the morning of 20th September 2015, neighbors responded to the cries of a man in the housing estate of Buruburu within Nairobi City County, Kenya. The man was locked inside his bedroom, and a woman stood, blocking the exit out of the room with a knife in hand. Neighbors had already been gathered outside the bedroom window, and they could see their neighbor. They tried gaining entry into the house but failed, since the house was locked from the inside. Neighbors would break the bedroom window, and they could see their neighbor, a young man in his early 20s, standing and still alive, pleading to be let go. He was covered with blood and was holding his abdomen in pain. Through the broken window, one neighbor threw an umbrella to help the man to defend himself from his attacker, but it landed on the bed. Shouts and pleas from everyone outside the house to try change the attacker's focus failed, and a few more fatal stabs sent the man collapsing by the foot of the bed. The injured man could be heard praying, and then everything went silent. After the attacker alerted to the presence of the police who had been called just a kilometer away, she would throw the house keys to them through the broken bedroom window after the boys in blue threatened and commanded her to open the door. They managed to enter the house and walked into a horrific crime scene with bloody walls, strewn utensils, the floor covered with beddings, and a cell phone smashed into pieces. The woman would be found bathed in blood, a kitchen knife still in her hand. Her victim lay lifeless and beyond saving by the bed. Farid Mohammed was born and raised with his sister, Sarah Waithera, in Nairobi, and lived with their grandparents after their mother's sudden death. Farid's upbringing was difficult since, as a young boy, together with his sister, they had been witnesses to domestic violence in their family. The young man would join high school and attend Lenana School. He would later pursue a course in computer science in the University of Nairobi, and immediately after secure employment in the city and rise up the ranks at his workplace as a data analyst supervisor. During his time in university, Farid is believed to have met Ruth Kamande, who worked as a hairdresser and at times as a sales agent for a telecommunications company also in the city. Her colleagues would recall her as someone always obsessed with looks, and coming from a humble background, proved difficult to buy the many things she desired. Their relationship would initially be smooth. Unfortunately, it turned rocky for the two, as described by close family friends, often on and off, with the two seeing other people during their breaks. They would soon rekindle their old flame and continued with their relationship until the unfortunate events of this story. Ruth had been staying with Farid for around 2 months before the incident, and on the 19th of September 2015, after going through Farid's bedside drawer, she discovered old high school letters addressed to her boyfriend while he was still in high school. The letters were between him and another young lady who Farid had recently reconnected with on Facebook and had relocated to the US. This led to a disagreement between the couple, and to prove to Ruth that the lady didn't mean anything to him anymore, he tore up the letters in her presence. This was not enough to quell Ruth's suspicion of infidelity in their relationship. Farid's uncle, Mr. Edward Gatoni, had been trying to reach out to his nephew on the day the love letters had been discovered, but failed to get in touch with him through phone calls. He decided to go to Farid's house and there he found the couple still hot from the love letter argument. Ruth would leave the two in the sitting room area and lock herself in the couple's bedroom. In this moment, Farid's uncle asked him why his phone was off, and Farid revealed the argument concerning the old high school love letters, and later how she blocked the phone trying to check it. Ruth would come out the bedroom later on in the day to purchase lunch for the couple, but not for their guest. Farid would also express to his uncle how Ruth was forcing him to let her stay with him in the house. Farid's uncle would leave the house later in the day after the two had hushed over their grievances, believing that was the end of the tense situation. One of the initial responding officers at the scene, who had recovered the knife used in the murder, said that Ruth was able to walk without aid and was calm through her arrest. She would also reveal to the police the reason behind the attack was because she found a positive AIDS medical report on Farid, which she found under his mattress. This led to an argument, and she had threatened to tell his family. She went on to claim he grabbed the knife and attacked her by sitting on her. She claimed to have disarmed him by poking his eyes. She would grab the loose knife and proceeded to stab him, but couldn't remember how many times she did. Post-mortem was undertaken on Farid's body on the day he lost his life by the chief government pathologist, Dr. Johansson Odwar. His opinion after examining the body was that he died from multiple injuries and blood loss due to penetrating force trauma. He located a total of 25 stab wounds on his chest, head, hands, abdomen, shoulder, back and legs. Ruth, upon her arrest, was taken to the hospital and was examined by 2 doctors. They both found injuries on her chest, hands and abdomen, but were not life-threatening, merely superficial. The first doctor stated that Ruth did not complain of any sexual assault. However, the second doctor stated that she complained of sexual assault, but after further examination, he said that there were no signs of sexual assault. The legal proceedings before the judge's verdict span around 3 years after the murder. The case garnered a lot of public attention in 2016 after the murder due to the fact that Ruth would partake in a beauty pageant in the jail she was in. She would go on to win the competition, and the public would have mixed reactions to this. The prosecuting counsel urged the court that the accused had beyond any reasonable doubt had intended to cause death to Farid. The prosecution would present 15 witnesses and also submitted that the accused was extremely jealous and possessive to the extent that she never wanted any woman next to him, and that the motive for the murder was the love letters. The wounds she had sustained, according to the prosecution, were self-inflicted and only in a bid to claim self-defense. The defense counsel stated the prosecution failed to prove malice, and that her client, while being escorted from the crime scene, was not calm but confused. Her defense urged the court that the hidden keys claim did not support premeditation. The couple's WhatsApp messages, extracted by police experts, showed that 2 days before the murder, the relationship was very tense. Ruth had blocked Farid's phone trying to get access to his messages, and even during this process she made him late for work. Farid's sister stated his brother was uneasy and bored the night before he was murdered after they had a phone call that night and could sense something was wrong but decided to let the matter rest. The judge would dismiss the allegations of the AIDS report as an afterthought, and it also could not be proven to exist. The judge would find that murder had been proven and found her guilty of Farid's murder as charged.
Now, after considering all these factors, I find that the only sentence to pass in this case is death, and therefore sentence the accused person to death as prescribed by the law.
2 months later, after her guilty conviction, she would appear in court for her sentencing. The judge would make a shocking sentence that would even be condemned by Amnesty International, an international non-governmental organization that focuses on human rights, stating that the sentence was cruel, inhumane, and outdated. In her ruling, High Court Judge Jessie Lassiet said that the self-defense argument could not be supported based on the number of times the victim was stabbed. She would go ahead and passed on the death sentence to the accused. The 2016 Miss Langata prison pageant queen looked forward at the judge in silence.
But I was hoping for life sentence. We are Christians, but we just wanted to thank the court and the justice in Kenya. Now we believe that there's justice in Kenya. That's the most important thing. That people cannot go taking other people's lives.
However, the victim's family were glad that justice had prevailed. Kenya has an effective ban on carrying out death sentences, and no prisoner has been executed since 1987, so her death sentence will most likely be commuted to life imprisonment. In November 2020, Ruth's legal team would seek an appeal on her conviction, but the court would uphold the death sentence. She was allowed to pursue a second appeal at the Supreme Court in October 2023. Ruth Kamande remains behind bars in the Langata Women Prison, where she has been able to train as an auxiliary paralegal and has helped a few fellow inmates navigate the country's complex judicial system. Farid Mohammed was just starting out in life. His charming personality and bubbly nature was snatched too soon from this world at 24 years of age. His family and friends greatly miss his presence, and he will be remembered fondly. Even though the case garnered public attention because of the wrong reasons and overshadowed Farid's murder, the family appreciated the huge coverage the case got. What's your take on this story? Do you think that the death sentence handed out to Ruth was harsh? Feel free to share your thoughts on the comments section. I greatly appreciate you taking your time to watch this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for a new story in the next few days. Asante and stay blessed.